Welcome, Commanders, to this briefing. Today we shall be encompassing a peculiar vehicle provided to us not from any British factory. The South African Reconnaissance Car 4A, as hinted to by its rather blatant name, is an armoured car procured in the Dominion of South Africa. This is the first time we shall be addressing a foreign vehicle that is stationed in the British territory. Since this is a rather special occasion, I will take the time to explain in simple terms the stance of vehicles in the British territory and in regards to vehicles I shall be covering in these films. As you're all well aware, the majority of vehicles in Britain are of British origin. However, a select minority are very graciously gifted to us from foreign sources, such as today's subject. This leaves us in a rather tricky position. I intend to cover every British armoured vehicle in War Thunder. But what about those that are not British? These external tanks that have residence in the tree present an issue. Do not despair though, I have conceived a rather simple solution. I shall cover a tank only if it meets one of these three criteria. 1. It is of British origins. This is the easiest to facilitate. 2. It originates from a member of the British Commonwealth. This category includes such nations as Canada, Australia, and of course, South Africa. 3. A vehicle must have been modified to some degree by British forces, or at the very least contain a unique aspect only available to Britain. This system allows other nations, of which I intend to move on to eventually, showcase their own tanks rather than them be shoehorned into a country of which they did not originate from. Now that we have that debacle all sorted, we can continue onto a quite fascinating armoured car. Gentlemen, if I may draw your attention to this presentation regarding the on-paper statistics, in addition, the differences when comparing a vehicle that is stock as opposed to spaded. To once more reiterate, a vehicle that is stock has not unlocked a majority of its assigned modifications. These modifications present the true potential any tank has to offer. The vital differences are shell type and smoke grenades. The mobile performance of the SARC does not vary wildly. As such, the combat metrics are placed higher. For the purposes of this film, it should be assumed that all modifications are unlocked. Let us start with the basics. The SARC measures in a length of 5.5 meters, a width of 2.13 meters, and a height of 2.79 meters, as well as a weight of 6.3 tons. These overall dimensions make for quite the reasonable size, unlike later South African vehicles. With a crew size of 3, survivability is limited, with many shots knocking out multiple crew members, leaving you out of action. With survivability in mind, we shall now look at the placement of the ammunition. With 37 rounds at maximum, scattered around the floor of this fighting vehicle, it offers sound enough protection from ammunition detonations. Besides, any shots that will have hit the ammo have most likely knocked out your crew as well. The armour of the SARC IV is most likely what you expected from an armoured car. All that protects your driver from the dangers of combat is 24mm of road homogeneous armour. This side and rear armour consists of 6mm of protection, hardly impressive numbers. Your armoured car will be susceptible to any weapon system more powerful than your average machine gun. To state clearly, this level of protection derives the main tactics of the SARC, as it presses home the requirement for speed and excellent positioning. The SARC IV is propelled by a Ford V8 gasoline producing 95 horsepower, and with a weight of 6.3 tons, the top speed reaches an impressive 84 km an hour, or 52 miles per hour. This places the SARC in a relatively good standing amongst its peers. Only one armoured car, the M8 LAC, at DBR is superior in speed alone. In terms of mobility, the SARC has a rather effective turning circle, and in conjunction to its 13 km an hour or 8 miles per hour reverse gear, this fighting vehicle has plenty of performance that assists it in battle. The main armament of the SARC consists of the ubiquitous 4mm 2-pounder. This cannon has been discussed at length, as such I won't address the specifications of this platform once more, but suffice to say that the 2-pounder has an excellent fire rate of 3.6 seconds, and with an access to 37 rounds, it won't be unheard of to expend all shells in the course of battle. A sore spot on the SARC's performance is the bizarre fact that the 2-pounder in the vehicle does not utilise the shoulder stabiliser. as its gun is elevated with a vertical drive instead of the gunner's shoulder. I am not quite sure as to why this decision was made, but in matches it will significantly affect the SARC's ability to engage targets even after coming to a halt. Gentlemen, gaze upon a situation that will be familiar to many of you. Our oh-so-daring tank commander finds himself in a pickle. To the front, there is a flak panzer, merrily firing away at any vehicle in his sight. And now to the rear, where we find some assortment of opponents just waiting for the opportunity to strike. It would be well advised of our commander to prioritize one hostile and then to swing about and engage the other. This is exactly the course of action we shall see unfold. A quick bout of fire is exchanged with a dastardly German. However, much like the First World War, this results in a stalemate. Similarly to that war, decision is made to call in some artillery support and refocus attention to the rear, where it is now revealed that a Frenchman is manoeuvring. A well-placed round puts a stop to the frolic-looking Frenchie. However, danger still lurks. With the flak panzer vanquished and the hands of a friendly, our SARC knows that he must now focus his attention behind. Once more, French armour blunders across our gun sight. In spite of the first shot landing in the side, the enemy is not out of action, and it is quick to return a blow. However, the splendid fire rate of the 2-pounder wins the day and finishes this fight. This status quo will continue for some time, as several waves of hostile tanks attack from this most important sector. Time and time again, our plucky SARC engages these marauders. Now, as these pivotal moments unfold, let us discuss this situation in greater detail. Many a mistake are made from both parties involved. Firstly, the armoured car should not be in such a position. The SARC operates best at close to medium range flank attacks, not in sword swinging range. However, the blunders from the enemy of consistently failing to check corners and then to blindly charge even knowing danger looms allows this out-of-place car to deal serious damage and cut off the opponents from the C-cap. This heavily contributes to victory in the long haul. If you wish to improve in the art of tank combat, look to these mistakes and learn from them. We shall make this one snappy, as the last example was a tad bit lengthy. Here we find our SARC sticking to the doctrine and advancing along the enemy's flank. This employment of tactics facilitates the destruction of two vehicles who are completely oblivious to the notion of a flank. This success is short-lived, however, as the enemy becomes wise to the position of us. A horde of enemy armour approaches, and our commander has very few moments to take a course of action. He decides to stand and fight. Whilst brave, it is ultimately a fatal decision. In quick succession, a BT is knocked out, which is then followed by a Soviet T-28 and American LVT rapidly descending upon and unleashing a storm of lead into the poorly armoured side, which rapidly sends our vehicle back to the hangar. This folly demonstrates that in battle, on occasion, the best course of action is to retreat before being overrun. This SARC could have dispatched some smoke and drove off, but he didn't, and he paid the price. At once, we find ourselves nearing the end of this presentation. To summarise, SARC IV A occupies a unique position in the category of looking very appealing on paper, and in some aspects it certainly is, with an unrivaled top speed and fantastic main gun. However, in practice, the lack of a stabilizer and its tendency to rock harshly when firing the main gun means that as a fighting platform, it suffers terribly when not in a prepared position to fire, which, as an armoured car, and thus requiring to stay on the trot, is not ideal. This session is over. Take what you have learnt into the field and do us all proud. Gentlemen, you are dismissed.